The layoffs at IBM reduced my business by about 60%.
Well, IBM's layoffs were an absolute shake-up of the entire region's economy.
The biggest problem that the mid-Hudson Valley faced when IBM had all their layoffs was obviously the unemployment rate.
Retail stores, when you lose 30,000 people, if they all leave the area, then naturally you're going to have some market economy problems.
We are in changing times.
Learning in progress.
Most of the valley was quiet until IBM came in the 60s, and of course there were needs that people had. They had to construct buildings, schools, teachers, shopping, a whole host of things had to happen in order to accommodate the IBM staffs and their families. And now that's no longer needed.
I don't think we'll ever find a single industry like IBM again. That was very nice because it was a high-tech industry, very high-tech, and they had a good business. It was very strong in the information industry and in a growing industry. Those are few and far between, and communities that attract an IBM, those things just don't happen very often.
IBM traditionally had been the big blue security blanket, and I don't believe anyone ever thought that the amount of downsizing that occurred would ever occur.
IBM was a very prosperous company. It took good care of its people, and other people who might otherwise want to locate here said, we don't want to compete with IBM.
During the early 1980s, IBM had I'll call it a bubble, and hired sufficient amount of employees, they thought at that point in time, for the workload they had. But as the work started to drift off, the employees were more than the work that was necessary. So in order to take and streamline the company, there was an excess of employees that had to be laid off.
The layoffs had a ripple effect throughout the Hudson Valley's economy. The loss of jobs led to a lower standard of living and a decrease in the demand for services. Businesses whose capital came from catering to the needs of IBM and IBM employees lost business or closed shop. Some businesses were able to take advantage of the change.
Before IBM laid the people off, I had lines going out the door, morning business, afternoon lunch business. As soon as that Black Tuesday, I think they called it, happened, it's just like you fell off a cliff. There was nothing. It went from people walking in and out to like a ghost town around here.
A lot of pink slips.
The biggest problem that the area faced was the unemployment rate. Obviously, when IBM laid off as many people as they did, the unemployment rate skyrocketed at that point. And as a result, a lot of other businesses also failed at that time. Some of the smaller retails, a lot of delis and grocery stores that at one point thrived because of the people that were employed by IBM ended up going out of business as well.
Well, IBM layoffs affected our company in several ways. One, when IBM downsizes the way they did in the second quarter of 1994, they created movement in people. When you create movement in people, that affects the real estate business. What has happened there is that an awful lot of product came on the market in the second quarter 1994 because of downsizing. Early retirements or whatever transfer of employees or whatever they were doing created an awful lot of product for us on the market. That sometimes becomes a problem if you're in pockets where you don't have a market for it. In our case in Dutchess County, it worked out rather well for us.
It's just a very dramatic change for the people involved.
The people who did work for IBM, a lot of them have gone away, obviously because the need is not there. Some have moved to different locations, and some are still there but at a lower level like IBM. They downsized as well.
People no longer have jobs.
We were going from an unemployment rate of 3% up to 12%, and lots of people laid off, and of course all of the associated social problems with that.
A lot of people saying, we can't find a job, we're just going to make our own job and we're going to make our own company.
Basically, I know a lot of people that worked for IBM for many, many years and were recently laid off.
A lot of service industries had to do a mad scramble. We saw some lose their businesses, and we've been trying to help out as best we can.
I was a contractor for IBM for 7 or 8 years, and they started to cut back, and the first place they cut back was the maintenance, facilities maintenance.
The layoff was strictly an excess of employees opposed to workload.
A lot of the arts were funding was cost because IBM did a 2-to-1 matching grant for every $25 that an IBM employee gave to an art gallery, IBM would match that.
Actual revenues were down for quite a while because a lot of the money that was in the area moved on to other parts of the country.
We expected more problems, I think, than actually surfaced.
Now our job is just to keep IBM here and happy, and that's one of the things we do work at.
Whenever there's movement in an area where people are moving out, moving in, or whatever they're doing, it's good for my business because they no longer have need for that house.
I think most IBMers would have preferred to stay at IBM as employees and were devastated when they were either laid off or retired early. Many of them had a hard time adjusting. We knew that because there were greater demands on the social service agencies in the county. You know, that there were family problems, there were personal problems that had to be addressed that were directly related to people losing their jobs or not working.
IBM's downsizing efforts has resulted in a $16 billion loss within the past 3 years. Part of this loss can be contributed to IBM's competition, who is able to market merchandise with greater success. This could explain why Hudson Valley's residents are now experiencing a bleak economy.
I was one of the probably more fortunate employees to be able to retire in 1993 when they had the layoff. And when I retired, I was also very fortunate to have a business that I went to work for myself.
I never expected to leave IBM that soon, but they made an offer that just didn't make any sense to turn down. In my case, my children were through college. So it hit me just at a very good time. I was ready to do something different. They were looking to downsize, so it was a good marriage of interests.
I think it's going to take us a long time to recover from IBM leaving.
And there were people that just didn't want to spend money. They were afraid to spend. They didn't know who it was going to be, when it was going to happen. It was unbelievable. They were just walking scared. It was like the IBM lit a fuse and they were just waiting for the bomb to go off because that's how people were. They were just panicking all over the place.
You know, the extreme kinds of things that could happen in terms of, you know, the image you have of people at soup kitchens and so forth. We never really felt that in Dutchess.
People were basically depressed. They didn't want to be entertained. So yeah, there was a decrease in the nightlife too. People didn't want to go out. They would rather stay home and feel sorry for themselves.
There weren't enough major businesses to support those people, so everyone either was out of work or looking for work or they had to leave the area.
The people who were really hurt, I believe, are the people that had maybe 20, 23, 24 years with the company, and they just hadn't planned on any kind of a nudge or whatever happened to them.
One day, there was construction workers down there and plumbers and carpenters, And the next day, you snap your fingers and they were gone. It just stopped everything, told everybody pack up their tools and go home. What's to stop that from happening again?
There were tremendous levels of unemployment. We were the highest in the state for a few months, where we went up over 12% temporarily. And that gave a cause for great concern. We had been the lowest, traditionally the lowest or next to the lowest in the state for years and years and years. So we were going from an unemployment rate of 3% up to 12.
Would I have ever expected that 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years before I retired? Absolutely not. I mean, you think of Big Blue is there to keep on hiring more and keep on growing.
IBM had this incentive program for IBM employees to go back to Marist, and because of IBM layoffs, that program was cut. So a lot of the enrollments in the adult education program in Marist went down.
IBM was a very supportive employer in terms of encouraging its employees to further their education. To my understanding, they got $2,500 a year to do that, and many of their employees came to Dutchess and got a degree because of that financial support provided by IBM. A lot of those people, when they were no longer working with IBM, discontinued their education.
Businesses need, big, small, or whatever, need someone to help with transitions.
Hudson Valley's economy is experiencing a transitional period. In a slow-moving economy, new businesses struggle to emerge. Already established businesses struggle to survive. Downsizing has occurred in all areas as well, including government office. A business-building institution, known as the Navigator, has stepped forth encouraging new industry growth.
Well, the IBM layoffs really triggered a new kind of involvement for Dutchess County Planning and Development. We used to be just a traditional planning organization. And the county executive felt very strongly that we had to redefine our role and be much more active in the development process.
I think now more than ever there's more small business development.
IBM's downsizing has affected a lot of businesses in town, and those businesses in turn pay taxes, and there's just less taxes around. The economy has slowed down, and government has had to take that into account at all levels, including the local town level.
We are going to downsize. We're going to look at our government agencies and see where the waste is, and then make some determinations as how to best restructure ourselves so we can provide the American public with the best service possible.
We've always wanted more diversity. Even when things were going so well with IBM, we felt that we were a little precarious because as IBM went, so went Dutchess County.
We tried to stay in Dutchess County for a while, and on the outside it was kind of rough. So we basically just dissolved the business, and I found a job with the county.
I think the largest single thing that the town of Poughkeepsie has been involved with in the encouraging economic development and helping ourselves is becoming a partner with the city of Poughkeepsie in the town of East Fishkill and the county of Dutchess in the economic development zone.
One of the things that we are doing is this partnership in the EDZ, which was made possible in part because we have a lot of economic indicators where people in the city of Poughkeepsie meet the poverty criteria at the federal level, and Bill Steinhaus, as county executive, went and argued that in addition to that, for the zones program run by the Department of Economic Development of New York State, that we also should address the question of the sudden and severe economic impacts of the downsizing.
The incubator was to help entrepreneurs develop their skills and build their businesses to a point where they could become self-sufficient.
People are just scrutinizing the government right now and how they do business.
Actions that IBM took in the past was to say that, hey, their properties were overassessed, and that is done through a process called tax certiorieries.
Some incubators have reported as much as 85% success rate.
We eventually negotiated with IBM was to reduce the assessed value of their properties within the town by over $100 million. Those write-offs or write-downs in the tax value were then taken at the rate of some $33 million a year. Well, you can't collect on taxes on values that aren't there anymore, so we had less taxes to collect.
To enhance the community and to ensure that the businesses continue to exist.
It's a little too early for us to tell on ours, but we have close to 30 companies that are using our incubator, and that number's going up.
There's been some 19 successful businesses brought into the county.
There's the incubator over in Dutchess County, which is a fabulous organization. All of those things were basically formed to help all these small businesses and the Small Business Administration and everything else, just to give them the help that they need.
I don't know that there's any one company or one kind of company that's sort of a natural solution.
As a possible solution to the economic situation, attempts are being made to diversify the economy. Facilities left behind by IBM are now being used for different purposes. Other industries are attempting to carry IBM's torch industries, including tourism.
We expect the economy, it's already becoming more diversified, and we expect that trend to continue.
We've been more understanding of the needs of business. We don't take it for granted that we've got a big blue sitting there taking up the slack.
The film office was founded because of the IBM layoffs, and all the businesses were moving out of the area. So we realized that there had to be another economic development incentive and another push to bring new businesses and a new kind of way of looking at how this county can be maintained. And that was one of our thoughts, was the entertainment business, because there's so many entertainment professionals that live in the Hudson Valley.
We have a lot of advantages because of low-cost power and because of our proximity to New York City and a reasonably good transportation system and a highly skilled workforce that we can compete for a lot of companies from the low-tech all the way up to the high-tech level.
What we're trying to do is put together a package economically, quality economic revitalization based around our number 2 industry, which is tourism.
In the town of Wappingers, there was buildings vacated by IBM known as the Moyers Corners Road buildings. Those are now occupied by a medical instruments manufacturer, Lauderdale.
IBM is doing things in partnerships, for example, with Motorola and Siemens, and so that we're actually looking at those companies that they're partnering with, and we're hoping to encourage them to make this their home. So it won't be just IBM, but it will be a blended concern where they share the investment.
I think they're moving in a positive direction to bring people into the valley.
It's a changing dynamic, and what we want to do is we want to see in Dutchess County a good balance between jobs and just the number of people we have. We want that ratio of households to jobs to remain a strong ratio.
I think the fastest growing industries are service industries and tourism.
The one thing that can pick up the reins from where IBM left off as your major big employer, the number 2 industry in Dutchess County is tourism.
That's what tourism is trying to do, to take up the reins as a result of IBM leaving.
The Federal National Park Service budget has been frozen, and as a result of that, we were held at 5 days a week operation at our 3 sites, which are the FDR home, which Springwood, the Summer White House, Vanderbilt Estates, and also Valkill, which is the retreat of Eleanor Roosevelt.
Hudson Valley has been leaning on tourism for support. Sites such as Hyde Park's Vanderbilt Mansion and the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Estate provide for a marketable attraction. Unfortunately, these institutions have felt the pinch of the economy as well.
315 historic sites on a potential hit list, either for downsizing, privatizing, or complete closure.
So what do you do when now these folks are gone and you still have these businesses, and the buildings that these businesses exist in are not going to fall down? They're either going to have to be leased if the businesses can't be kept up, or they're going to have to look for other sources in order to acquire the dollars they need to stay open. And I strongly feel that they are looking to the National Park Service to help them to do that. And it's very difficult for us to do it when we're also feeling the pinch of the economy. We're also feeling that we're being stretched to the limits, and we're trying to accommodate as many people as possible.
I think in the long term that means that tourism will just get to be a stronger and stronger component of the economy.
Tourism is the number 3 industry in the entire United States in retail, and the number 2 here in Dutchess County. And that equates to 1 out of every 10 jobs is a tourist-related job, directly related.
We in town government now like to think that there's quite an attraction from the tourist point of view.
The Hudson Valley is a great place to visit. There's a lot of history here.
The IBM layoffs may have had a small impact on tourism in that we focused on it even more than we had before.
We need to attract more quality tourist development.
I think tourism is doing a fantastic job.
Tourism has definitely increased in Dutchess County, and we actually have a system of measuring tourism and the impact of tourist dollars. We have an indexing system where we take counts from crossing the Mid-Hudson Bridge and certain counts from restaurants and prime tourism locations like the FDR site and so forth. And we can tell from one year to another whether it goes up and down.
If we facelift our businesses and create a vision for what we should look like, then we will become an attractive destination.
It showed that since IBM was dropping, they've been on this humongous push to increase the tourism in Dutchess County, and they've done it.
You have places like the Roosevelt Mansion, Ogden Mills Estate, plenty of places around here for people to tour, not to mention the area is just beautiful, especially this time of year.
Tourism has, I think, will continue to be strong just because of the demographics of the United States. A lot of the baby boomers are getting to a point where they have a lot of discretionary income.
It's also important to maintain our historic sites in adequate repair, make sure that they are available to those people who are interested in coming here.
The Dutchess County itself is a very beautiful place to live. The river is a nice asset for those interested in boating.
In 1995, we've had a couple of setbacks because of the FDR being closed a couple of days a week and so forth, but it's also showing to be a very brisk year, very important part of the economy, and generates over, our estimates are over $125 million a year.
You might well imagine the panic throughout the economic community when they heard that not only did we lose IBM to a major downsizing, and we were struggling to turn ourselves right again, but we also were being hit with a 1-2 punch with losing potential of all three of our crown jewel sites.
When a corporation's supply is far greater than demand, downsizing is a possibility. This could be tragic in areas whose economy relies on one industry. However, it could inspire hope for a more diversified economy.
I know the morale has dropped a lot since I was talking to a lot of people. A lot of my neighbors are IBMers that got laid off, and they had first-hand experiences of actually losing their job, and it kind of affected me a little bit too. I felt kind of bad for them, and I could feel for them, you know.
It's not ideal to have a one-horse town, but looking back on it, I'm glad that we had IBM here for the years that they were large and successful, and they really set the town in good position for the future. So I'm not sorry that they were here. I think we're probably better off having had them be here in the middle of, well, the end of this century, really, the last 50, 60 years.
I think downsizing can have a very positive effect. People view it on a negative basis because it's change. And change means coming out of your comfort zone. When you're used to doing things the same way for years and years and years, now that you're cut in terms of staff, you're cut in terms of budget, that means you're going to have to think differently, and you're going to have to find creative ways in order to continue to do the same work, but knowing you have less people and less money to do it with.
I think if you have diversification in your employment base, I think the villages and towns and cities are much better off.
I don't really think it's a negative. I just think it's a change that needed to be made. People realize that now, and the economy is starting to get that foothold back, and it's starting to come alive again.
We wouldn't be the town we are. We wouldn't have the nice facilities we have now if it weren't for IBM and the economic well-being that they brought to the Hudson Valley.
A lot of people had alternatives. Now, sometimes they had to leave Dutchess County to take advantage of that alternative. But what we have seen is that as those people have moved out, we've had another influx of people.
I think that Dutchess County, specifically Poughkeepsie and Beacon and all of those little towns that have a lot of people, the cities, I think that they're having a renewal of the arts. There's a lot more art galleries, there's a lot more artist space, artist lofts. And I do think that it's going to get Poughkeepsie and Beacon on the map.
There's been some 19 successful businesses brought into the county.
I don't know if it's really wise to base a town on one industry. It seems that that's usually what happens, and in the end, when that business moves on, the entire area suffers. So I don't really think it's wise to put all your eggs into one basket.
The Hudson Valley is gearing up for a fresh economic outlook. Despite the uncertainty about the future, many community leaders have pooled the resources to diversify the economy in an attempt to revitalize the growth. But will the Hudson Valley ever allow its economy to rely on one major industry again?
I don't think it's necessarily wise to do that, obviously, because of this, because of up in Westchester with the GM plant closing down, Ulster County, the IBM plant closed down. Once you have a whole group of people relying on one thing, nothing's a sure thing.
I don't think there's too many businesses in the Hudson Valley that would say that they're doing absolutely well. They've all been affected one way or the other.
There's lots of things that we can do collectively to be successful. I don't think we should just rely on one. If we do, I think we will fail in terms of the economy.
I think one of the outstanding aspects of having to face a major downsizing by a large industry such as IBM is the entrepreneurial spirit that you see develop and come to the fore. People who perhaps would never have taken that chance decide that, you know, this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to do it for myself. I'm going to do it for my community. And you see volunteerism like you've never seen before. People who have given up sometimes 30 hours a week extra over and above the job that they're doing to help the area and the region. So the downsizing had a negative effect. It had negative impacts. It also brought out a spirit of cooperation, a spirit of can-do, and a realization that you can never put all your eggs in one basket, including a big blue basket.
In my opinion, the look that is selling now is something that's unusual.
The trends, it's the trends.
Advertisement certainly makes them probably more body conscious. It may foster some unrealistic expectations.
They look at these ads, they look at these images, and they say, well, that's what's beauty. That's what beauty looks like. How can I do that?
No one could live up to those expectations. I think that kind of expectation people tend to beat themselves up over.